Hello, everybody. This is like take 5,762, and I'm losing my mind, just to let you know. Between my family and my dogs and stupid technology, nothing is working. So please pardon my crankiness, but this is frustrating. So I'm going to do pages 1 and 2 of your notes. For those of you that still can't figure out Google Classroom, I want you to hang on for a second. It's going to go black, but I think this is the only way it's going to actually work. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to start sharing this. Hopefully now you're seeing my Google Classroom. I just opened the first block because I don't know why. But as you will see here on April 6, 2020, this Unit 3 notes page 1, and then there's a YouTube link. I'm going to have to fix this after this video because that video went freaking black. No! Anyway, I initially put on here Microsoft Word files, but people were having a problem converting those, and there was errors in the formatting. So I went through this morning and I changed it all to Google Docs. So now you should just have to open it up, and now you should be able to type your little heart out on these. If you have a printer and you'd like to print them out, go for it. If you don't have a printer or you don't want to print them out, just type right here. You can change the color, ink, etc. We're going to go through these notes, and then we're going to, look here, do a worksheet, which I also converted into a Google Doc. When you're done with these, you're going to go up to where it says classwork. You're going to go to where it says animal characteristic worksheet, and you're going to have something in here that says turn in or upload or something like that, and you're going to upload it. I'm going to, if I can ever get through this stuff, do 2 lessons for this week, and any of the work that will be required won't be required till Friday. I know Friday is a holiday technically from school, so you don't have to turn it on Friday. You can turn it on Thursday. You can turn it on Wednesday. You can turn it in today if you finish it. Well, probably not, because I'm getting so frustrated that I don't think I'm going to do the second lesson today. I'm going to calm down a little bit. So hopefully that clarifies any questions. I'm going to stop sharing this screen now, so it's going to go black, and then hopefully I'm going to be able to bring back up my Google or my Smart Notebook. So hopefully we are now back at Google Classroom. We are doing the invertebrate unit. We are going to look at vertebrates and invertebrates, but there are so many animals that we had to split them up or the unit would be way too big. So if you remember, when we talked about evolution, we talked about the fact that bacteria were the first animals on the planet. And they were around for like 1.5 billion years by themselves before, closer to 2 billion, kingdom Protista came along. And these guys had a really cool ability. They could photosynthesize. And that ended up being a real good thing for everybody. And eventually the photosynthesizing protists became plants. And the non-photosynthesizing protists evolved into fungi and animalia. So on the first thing on your notes where it says what or kingdom Animalia is thought to have evolved from, the answer is Protista. They're thought to have evolved from the protists. Now the animal kingdom is big. And like I said, we split it up. So what we're going to start looking at first is the invertebrates, which will be this portion of this tree here. We'll be looking at all the animals that don't have a backbone, but we're going to learn some characteristics about animals and look and see how those have changed as we're moving along and getting more complex in the animal kingdom. So let's look at some characteristics. First, here are some pictures of what some of those first animals might look like. They look a little scary, a little Martian-like, but like this guy right here, we can see that that kind of looks like a sponge that we're going to look at soon. And this kind of looks a little bit like an insect, so they look somewhat similar. So for our animal characteristics, the first one on your notes says that all animals are multicellular. And I want you to write on the line there, made of more than one cell, or you can just write more than one cell. All animals are made up of more than one cell. We don't have any single-celled animals. All animals are eukaryotic. We've gone over this word about 10,000 times this school year. Eukaryotes have a nucleus. Remember, the only kingdom that doesn't have a nucleus is the bacteria. And all animals are heterotrophic, which means that they consume others for energy. Now remember, if I'm doing this and I'm talking too fast or you can't keep up with the writing, all you have to do is pause this video and then you can fill in whatever you need to fill in. Along the lines of our heterotrophs, we have a whole bunch of different types, and we learned a lot of these in ecology, and you learned a lot of these in elementary school, so we should be able to go pretty fast. Our first one we have is the herbivore. Our herbivore only eats autotrophs. Now, in your past classes, you might have learned that they eat plants, but they could also be considered an herbivore if they're eating algae, and algae is a protist, so we need to keep it with eats autotrophs. For our next one, our carnivore, same kind of thinking. These guys eat heterotrophs, because you could say they're going to eat animals, but they could also eat fungus, they could eat protists, they could eat, yeah, pretty much those two, and still be considered a carnivore. And then we have omnivore. Omni means both. They're going to eat autotrophs and heterotrophs. And that's what you are. Next on our list, it's not on our picture, is a parasite. It's kind of hard to put those in a picture, but they live off of a host. So this would be like your mosquitoes, your ticks, your tapeworms. Filter feeders is something that's going to come up in our first phylum of invertebrate. And these guys actually filter out food from water. So when you're in the ocean, you can just take in a bunch of that water and filter out the food particles. Scavenger, you've learned about that before. A scavenger is somebody that eats dead things. So that would be like a vulture, sometimes a hawk. They're going to eat things that are dead, roadkill, if you will. And saprophytes or detrivores, they are going to break down dead organisms. Ooh, that was weird. The difference between these two is the saprophytes or the detrivores or the decomposers. That's going to be things like fungus or bacteria, and they can't eat dead things. They don't have a mouth. They release a chemical that breaks down dead things. All of our animals lack a cell wall. We are the only kingdom that doesn't have a cell wall. And within our cells, we have specialization. If you look here, when you first formed, which we're going to talk about in a minute, you were a zygote. You were an unspecialized cell. And when we got into this stage right here, which is the gastrula, we started having some specialization happening, some differentiation. And what that means is that each cell got its own job. We We had neurons that control your impulses. We have red blood cells that carry oxygen. You have skin cells that protect you, lung cells that help you breathe in oxygen, etc. Now, not every organism on this planet has differentiation. Bacteria, they're just one cell, so they don't have all this going on. Yeast are just comprised of a few cells. So why is it a good thing that animals have this specialization? And I like to take you back to a little Taco Bell scenario here to help you understand. If you've ever been into a Taco Bell, you will notice that there's somebody there that is taking your order. Somebody that's in the back that is cooking your food. Well, that's how it used to be when I worked there. Somebody else that's doing dishes. There's somebody working drive-through. There's somebody putting all of the ingredients together to make your fabulous Doritos Locos taco. Now this works well and efficiently, and you can get your food pretty quickly as you go through the drive-through. But imagine if one person was trying to take your order, then go in the back and cook the food, then shred the lettuce, then shred the cheese, then do those dishes, then bring it up and put it together and wrap it all up and put it in a bag. One person, they'd be exhausted and it would take them forever. So just like the Taco Bell, since each of your cells has their own job, it makes us much more efficient, which means that it works better. It works faster. So that is an advantage to specialized cells. Since everything has its own job, we can work faster. Now, disadvantage, how can anything be wrong with that? Well, let's go back to the Taco Bell. Let's say that there is one guy, we'll call him Bob. Bob is the only person who knows how to make the ground beef at the Taco Bell. Nobody else has been trained on it. They don't know how to use the pan. They don't know what temperature to cook it at. They don't know how to tell when it's done. They don't know how much seasoning to put on it. Just Bob. Well, Bob drops dead of a heart attack. Poor Bob. This is going to create a problem for the Taco Bell. If you don't have any more beef, you have no more tacos, you have no more burritos supremes, no more Mexican pizzas, no more of a lot of things. So just like the Taco Bell, your cells rely on each other. There is interdependence, which means they rely on each other. Your red blood cells carry oxygen. Your bone cells can't start carrying oxygen. They can't do it. A sperm cell can't start carrying oxygen. That's not going to work, which is very important for kids your age because your brain is not fully developed. As I tell you all the time, your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, which makes you really not great at making decisions. So let's say you're at a party and somebody breaks out drugs and they say, come on, all the cool people are doing it. And you try the drugs and you will then kill your brain cells, some of them. You can't get them back. They don't grow back. The red blood cells can't jump up there. Our skin cells can't jump up there. Your lung cells can't start thinking for you. So the downside of cell specialization is interdependence. Next on our list, we have animals store their glucose in a large molecule. That molecule is called, and I have a picture of it. I can get you one if you want. It's not very exciting. It is called glycogen. We have a plants store theirs as starch. Each organism stores theirs as something different. Number 7, sexual or asexual reproduction. Most animals have sexual reproduction, but there are a few phyla that can asexually reproduce, just like bacterial cells. They'll just stretch out and start to split, and boom, we have 2. But remember, asexual reproduction, although it's faster, it also has no variation, which would be bad in terms of evolution and fighting off diseases. Sexual reproduction, all that sexual reproduction means is that you're exchanging genetic information. Here are two little organisms, I don't know what they are, and they are simply exchanging genetic material back and forth. Sexual reproduction doesn't necessarily mean penises and vaginas. All it means is that you've got some mixing of gametes. If you look up in this picture up here, you can see right in this area, there's some stuff that kind of looks cloudy. That is that coral releasing eggs into the water. So the female coral will release eggs and the male coral will release sperm, and they'll mix together in the ocean and fall and land somewhere and create a brand new, perfectly unique coral. And then last, we're going to talk about more in a minute, but all animals undergo embryonic development, starting with a zygote and then go through blastula and gastrula stages. We're going to go in that more detail in just one second. But first, let's look at another component of animals. Animals have something called symmetry, which you've probably heard of before in math class. It is simply the arrangement of something around a central axis. Now we're going to have some, pardon my drawing here, not real good. Some animals like this. This is a sponge, very bad sponge, but I'm a very bad drawer. Some animals, particularly the sponges, have what is called asymmetry. That means they have, A as a prefix means no. They have no symmetry. When you take this organism, you cannot cut it in half through any part of it and get two equal parts on both sides. So asymmetry means no symmetry. They have no way to split that organism into two parts. Radial symmetry, I like to call pizza symmetry, because as long as you go through the central axis of these organisms, you're going to end up with two equal parts. Now maybe you go here and you've got this equal part and this equal part. Yes, I know they're not exactly equal, but give me a break. You could go here and go through that central axis, and this would be one part and this would be another part. You could even go on a diagonal, and this would be one part and this would be another part. So any place you go, as long as you go through the middle, gives you two equal parts. Now, that's kind of a weird organism. We are definitely not that way. But right above where I'm writing is something called a hydra. This hydra has radial symmetry. And as long as you go right through this middle with any cut, you go along this cut line and cut straight down, you're going to have two equal parts. You go here and cut straight down, you're going to have two equal parts. And you're going to go here and cut straight down, you'd have two equal parts. So they're kind of formed around that center, kind of circular organisms, which is great because let's say that right here we have a predator. This hydra can actually see that and react to it. Let's say right here is some prey it wants to eat. It can react to it because it knows that it's there. If it's over here, it can still react to it. This would be like if Mrs. Burger was formed 4 times and like I went all the way around in circles, then I could see you at all times. So on your notes it says, why is it advantageous for sessile organisms to have radial symmetry? Sessile means they can't move. So they're stuck to the ocean floor. Just like I showed you with those stars, they can detect predator or prey in any direction. If I was stuck to the ground on the ocean floor, I'd only be able to see what's in front of me. I'd have no idea what's coming up behind me. So my type of symmetry would be very bad for being stuck on the ocean floor. Next, we have a bilateral symmetry. This is a crab or lobster of some sort, rather. Bilateral, bi means two. You can split this organism into two equal sides, but only along one plane. You can only cut right here and have two equal parts. You could have, you have walking legs on this side, you have walking legs on this side, you have a cheliped here and a cheliped here. That is bilateral symmetry. Now, when you have bilateral symmetry, so I want you to write down on that line there next to where it says bilateral symmetry, can cut into two equal parts, but only along one plane. If you look at the squirrel here, if we were to cut along this plane, would that equal two equal parts? Nope. If we were to cut right here along this plane, would that give us two equal parts? Nope. You'd have to come down straight along the top to equal two parts. So when we have these organisms, we're going to have some words associated with it. The first word is anterior. This means front. And posterior means back. Fill this in on your paper. We also have the word dorsal, which means the top, and ventral, which means the bottom. And then we have this other weird word, draw a line like right out here, lateral. Oops. Means the side. So it's really hard when you're looking at humans with this because you have to think of us down on all fours or else it doesn't work. If I was crawling, my head would be anterior. My backside would be my posterior. Along my back would be dorsal, that's the top. Where my stomach is, that would be ventral, or my bottom. So whenever you're looking at an organism, like when you're doing a worksheet in a minute here, one of the pictures I gave you has the animal on two legs instead of down on all fours. So you have to think about where everything would be when it's down on all fours. One thing that happened with this whole bilateral symmetry is that we got a wonderful thing called a head. We have one area of the body that has a concentration of all the nerve endings, and that is a head. And in our case, we have a brain in there. Most of you. Not all animals, not all organisms have a concentration of nerve endings at one end at the anterior portion. This is called cephalization. So I want you to fill in, if you printed out the paper, fill in dorsal, anterior, ventral, posterior, lateral on your squirrel. If not, try to do it on Google Docs somehow. I don't know how exactly that's going to work. All right, and finally, we have embryological development. When you, my friends, were first conceived, it happened in a process called fertilization. As much as you don't want to think about it, your dad's sperm entered your mom's egg, and that made you. And here it's step 2. You are a one-celled zygote. All that a zygote is a fertilized egg. Right here, you were just one cell. No differentiation happening there, no specialization. Even in step 3, you were a two-celled zygote. No specialization. But remember, this is the point where we have lots of totipotent stem cells that can become anything. 4-celled zygote. And this continues all the way until we get to stage 5, which is a morula. Morula is when we get to like 16 to 32 cells, and it becomes just a solid mass of cells, kind of like a bouncy ball, solid all the way through. Then the next step, and this happened to you, was a blastula. All your cells that made up this morula here, all the cells came to the outside. They pushed all to the outside and left a hollow middle. I like to think of this because you think of a soccer ball, it's hollow in the middle and you blast a soccer ball. And this is the last stage before differentiation happens. Differentiation is when we have some cells get specialized. They're going to have certain jobs. And that happens right here at step 7, which is the gastrula stage. Kind of cool. Your cells, you were a hollow soccer ball, and it starts to indent, kind of like if you've ever gotten a basketball or a soccer ball from the store that wasn't blown up, how it's kind of caved in on itself. That's what happens to your cells. It starts caving in, and this caving in is going to actually push all the way through. So what was the outside of your body, or outside of this soccer ball, this blastula here, is now going to be on the inside, and vice versa. And it's going to end up looking like this. For a moment, you kind of looked like a horseshoe. Sorry to break it to you. But what you had here is these cells that form the inside layer. All of these. And these are called the endoderm. The endoderm is going to become the tissues and organs of your digestive and respiratory tract. So think all the way down your throat, your stomach, your esophagus, your intestines, all the way out to your anal sphincter. Also, your respiratory tract. So you've got your lungs and your heart and all of that affiliated. And then we have the ectoderm. The ectoderm, ecto means outside. So that's going to be these cells right here going all around the outside. The ectoderm is going to be the skin covering for us, or feather or fur, or whatever, for different animals, and the nervous system. So your nerve endings, your synapses, etc. And then finally, in the middle of those two, can't tell, this zigzaggy part here, maybe we'll make it black. I cannot seem to find the green, but I think it's because the green and the red look the same to me. This area that I'm doing zigzaggy here in the middle, that is the mesoderm. And meso means middle. And this is going to be the muscles and skeleton of your body. So all your skin cells and hair and sweat glands and everything else is all formed from your ectoderm. Your throat and your tongue and your stomach and your small intestines and your anal sphincter all formed from your endoderm. And then your muscles and your nervous system, or sorry, your muscles and your skeleton are all the mesoderm. So if you turn to page 3 of your notes, I want you to fill in this area right here, and then we'll be done for the day. You have a worksheet that goes along with these concepts, and hopefully this recording took, or else I'm gonna cry. And y'all don't want to hear Miss Berger cry, do you? Good day. I will see you again soon. Oh, tomorrow, office hours, 2 o'clock. Come say hi. Come ask me any questions. Goodbye.